You were wrong.
A pipe bomb! Thanks, Mr. Puzzles. See you again soon.
Indeed.
He's groovy and never gloopy. You can't get it from an egg.
TV head characters. There's a good chance that if you've been on the internet lately, you've probably seen one of these types of characters. They could be a charismatic villain with a fun personality, they can be a kind-hearted sweetheart, or they might not have a personality at all, but you know, beggars can't be choosers, I guess. And I'd say with this year being a pretty plentiful year for TV head characters, I thought, why not take a list of them and rank them? After all, some of these characters might end up being some of my favorite characters within the thing they come from. Now, I need to say a few things just before we start. First of all, when I'm talking about TV head characters, I mean characters who have regular bodies, but just have a TV for a head. So like for example, Mr. Puzzles from SMG4 would count, but TV from BFDI wouldn't. Sorry to any BFDI fans currently watching, but being a TV for a body doesn't count as a TV head character, surprisingly. And the second thing I wanted to say is that there was one character I was really going to include on this list, but decided not to because of a reason I really don't want to mention, and that's Vox from Hazbin Hotel. Now, like I said, the reasons for me not liking him are just stuff I do not want to get into, so I am not even going to mention the reason I don't like him, but I have many reasons to do the opposite and like him anyways. I'll go over this pretty quickly because again, he's not really a part of the list, but I like his personality, especially in episode 3 when him and Velvet just act like complete assholes to Charlie, and it's just really entertaining to watch. Second of all, he's just a really good villain. The best example of this is in episode 5, where when the angels come down to apologize for the years of genocide that they committed, and Vox points out how using gift baskets to do this is a really stupid thing to do. However, he mixes in lies with these truths to where they still make sense to all the other sinners that he's talking to. And the third and final thing I have to mention is that despite having so many songs in Season 2, all of them are just so good. While I probably can't play any of them because they're probably copyrighted, they're all just really well performed and amazing to listen to. Listen, even if you don't like the show and you haven't really seen Season 2 yet, please give Vox Day a listen. It is extremely good and highlights just how good of a villain he is. Something I almost forgot to mention is that if you want to know why I believe that Vox is a good villain, then I recommend you go watch Enchanted's video on how well written villain he is, because I'm not talking out of here. I could probably keep talking about why I like Vox so much, but again, he's not part of this list, so I'm not spending my entire video on him. Of course, there's a lot of TV head characters out there, so I'm not going to include like every single one that ever existed. So I just gathered 12 of them that I thought were pretty good for this list, and I'm going to talk about them. Fair warning though, I haven't really like played all of the games or watched all of the videos that all these characters are a part of, so some of them I'll have to judge based on the way I see them. Like, if I think just by watching gameplay or videos of them that maybe they'd be interesting characters. So any apologies if I might get information wrong. And last thing I want to mention, this is a mostly subjective list, so please do not be mad at me if a character that you hoped was higher is lower than you expected or the opposite way around, because it's just my opinion. You can obviously disagree if you want, but don't act like my opinion is invalid or anything. And with that all said and done, let's begin the show. Well, I didn't think I'd ever be talking about this already before. I feel like most of us in 2022 believed that Skibidi Toilet was like peak cinema or something, but now we kind of just look at it and realize how stupid it actually was. I mean, I definitely think that the guy who made this has some talent with animation, though I don't think it's very good like all the time. The later entries I guess do look a lot better than the early stuff though. For those of you who don't know what Skibidi Toilet is, even though I feel like everyone does, Skibidi Toilet is an animated series on YouTube where these toilets of Gmod ragdolls are fighting against cameramen who are like the good guys, I guess, and throughout the series they introduce more technological characters like speakers, and of course, the main subject of this video, TV men. While they had secretly been in other parts before it, the first part where they were properly introduced was in episode 29, where they shined a bright light at the Skibidi Toilets in order to stun them, giving them an opportunity to flush them. And since then, they've become the big third group of good guys along with the cameras and speakers. And just like with the cameras and speakers, they're essentially their own species with different levels of power for each of them. If I were to say who the most popular versions of the TV men are, it's probably the Titan TV men or TV woman, one being more popular for worse Have I spent very little time talking about these guys? Yes. But do you really want me to talk about Skibidi Toilet any more than, like, 10 minutes? I didn't think so. Bottom line, aside from a few moments, they're mostly personalityless, and they're just really, really boring. I get the feeling that there's a good chance that any of you who are watching this video right now have played at least one Just Dance game in your life. I got into this series a lot when Just Dance 2020 came out, and I especially played the song you see right now, Bangarade. I probably can't play it again because of copyright, but this time I'm for sure I probably can't play it because of copyright. And this song, along with a bunch of other songs in the game, were also very enjoyable to play. And something else I just found out about recently is that in Just Dance 3, they made their own TV head character for the song Video Killed the Radio Star. Now, if I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't really like the song Video Killed the Radio Star. In my opinion, it's kind of annoying to listen to. I just don't enjoy it, like, at all. I gotta say, though, outside of the song itself, I do quite like the character design of the character playing in Video Killed the Radio Star. I like the little digital smile they have. I like how green they are. Whenever the characters are just one color, it's kind of nice to see what they do with said one color. You also may have noticed that I haven't really said this character's name, and it's because that I don't think they have a name, actually. Like, in the files for the things I'm using to make the video, I just call them the green suit character because they don't have a name. I do kind of like the environment around them with all the other TVs and that one kind of radio tower, I guess you can call in the background. The dance moves themselves are not all too interesting, but I do like the part during the chorus when they switch between different channels, which are actually different songs from the game, and I think that's kind of cool. Only unfortunate part is that I don't really have too much to say about them. They're just a character from Just Dance. You can't really say too much about a character from Just Dance. But the reason I kind of have them ranked above the TV men is because I enjoy Just Dance way more than Skibidi Toilet, obviously. Like, I know that's not really a criteria I should be counting on, but I don't care. This is my video, and this is how I'm going to choose to rank things, alright? Also, this character is just a character I haphazardly added to this list because I wanted there to be more than 11 characters to rank. So I just found them and was like, yeah, that'll do it. So yeah, fun character, but don't have too much to say about them. Does anyone remember Fundamental Paper Education? Well, for anyone who had no idea whatever the hell I just said, basically it was a video under the name Basics in Behavior that was created on March 1st, 2024. Now, the reason it was probably called Basics in Behavior, not Fundamental Paper Education, is because the name for the actual series came later, and the video itself was called Basics in Behavior because throughout the entire video, the song Basics in Behavior by the Living Tombstones is playing. Yes, for those who are wondering, I'm still making a Baldi's Basics video, but it probably won't come out for a while, so try not to think about it too much. Very unfortunately, though, quite a bit after that video was posted, the creator would end up privating their YouTube channel, which would remove the video as well. Now, I don't want to go into the reasons why it was removed, but I recommend you watch this video on screen if you want to know the full story. But in the most simplest of terms, the creator did not like how popular the series was getting, so she removed it. And to be honest, that is pretty unfortunate because I really did enjoy this video. I thought the characters looked cool and interesting, and it just seemed like a fun series that could have gone on for longer. But hey, if the creator didn't want to make more, then that's completely fine. Now, obviously, I would not be bringing any of this up if it wasn't for the fact that this series has their very own TV character named Ruby. Right out of the gate, I really like her design, like with most characters in the show. I like the pastel theming and rainbow theming on her. It mixes well together and it makes for a nice, charming, cute design. You can also see the TV theming with her, with how her ears are kind of like her antennas and her tail is actually a plug. It's a design that fits well within the other characters in the video. And unlike the TV men from Skibidi Toilet who had really boring designs, she actually looks like she could have a fun personality based on her design. Now, you may have noticed that I said based on her looks, she could have a good personality, and not that she does have a good personality. And you also may have noticed that I didn't really show any footage of her from the original video featuring her. Well, you know what? I'm going to show you the entirety of that original video and just put only the parts in which she shows up. Yes, I am being serious. I mean, I joked about before how some characters don't feel like they got that much screen time, like Jay from Murder Jones, but at least she didn't get only 4 seconds of screen time. I only really know what her personality is like because of a community post made by the official creator when this stuff was still around, and she talked about how the characters that you see on screen along with Ruby are noisy sometimes, but can be nice. But it is kind of hard to say things about a character who has just as many seconds of screen time as the letters in her name. And if you think I'm throwing slack at the creator for not putting her in more scenes, not at all. I'm just pointing it out how I find it funny how the character I'm talking about for this video has barely any screen time at all. And you know, despite the fact that this character has less screen time than I spend doing a math problem, someone somehow managed to make a music video for this character. I don't know how, with barely any screen time at all, but cool, I guess. Okay, you know, I was going to listen to it because I was curious to know how it sounded, but based on the little preview I saw and also seeing what else this channel made, I don't think I want to. So despite the fact that she has the least amount of screen time out of any other character on this list, I still put her above 2 characters because I just like the idea of her more than the other 2. So yeah, if she had more screen time, she'd definitely be higher, but for probably ever, this is where she's gonna stay. Look, if you watched my channel before, you absolutely have to know what Glitch Productions is. I could go over the countless videos I've made talking about Murder Drones, but I'm not, because that's not what this video is about. However, I mentioned them in this video, not for the reason you think, but because before I watched Murder Drones with my buddies and everything, I watched a video by the YouTuber named The Blue Guy. This was a video where he talked about glitch shows that no one talks about, and honestly, I think it was a pretty good video, and it's definitely one of the contributing factors as to what got me into glitch in the first place, so thank you, Blue Guy, for that. And of course, I would not be talking about this video if it wasn't for the introduction of one of his OC characters that he calls Televisor. And by name alone, he's definitely got one of the top spots on this list because it's very simple, but it's a clever pun on names, and I kind of enjoy it. Now, technically, he did appear before this video in his previous video about Benji X Scarlet, where he was promoting his merch store and showed some sticker packs, including Televisor. When he actually made his proper debut in the glitch video, he was actually quite enjoyable to watch. All he really does in the video is simply kidnap Blue Guy and force him to watch Glitch's forgotten shows and Benji X Scarlet. He's down here for the same reason as Ruby, in which he doesn't really have that much screen time, like, at all. But what makes up for his little screen time is some of the moments I do find actually kind of funny about him. I think it's funny how he's completely fine with being able to play a Benji X Scarlet video, yet when he tries to play Sunset Paradise, he says he gets scoliosis. I found it funny when Blue Guy asked people to raise their hands if they didn't know what SMG4 was, and he was one of those people. And I found it funny that at the end of the video, Blue Guy asks Televisor this:
"Is this your way of telling me you're forcing yourself in my videos now?"
Pretty much.
And then he proceeds not to show up in the next following videos that Blue Guy would make after the glitch video. So yeah, absolutely phenomenal presentation, but not enough time for that presentation to be going on in order for me to rank him higher on this list. Now is the part of the video where I talk about one of our first 3 Roblox characters. And of all 3, my least favorite definitely has to go to V from Dandy's World. Is it because I think she's bad? No, she's actually the first good character on this list in my opinion. Do I just really have very little to say about her? Yeah. I mean, if you really expected me to give meaningful commentary for a game where you play as cartoon characters spinning valves for ink machines, then I don't think this is the right channel to watch. Of the Toon characters, though, I definitely say that V is one of the better ones. Mostly because there's a lot more stuff with her in the game than there is for most other Toon characters. I think this is because she is listed as a main character Toon, which is like one of the more rare versions of a Toon you can get in this game. One of these big differences between the regular characters and her that I want to point out is the difference in design between her regular Toon version and her Twisted Toon version. It feels like for most of the Twisted variants in this game, it looks like they just took the normal Toon, gave them the bendy and the ink machine treatment, and then made them look high. And while I don't necessarily think that the Twisted design for V is the greatest design ever, it's definitely a lot more unique compared to every other Twisted in this game. She also has 2 different abilities she can use, like Mic Check, which allows her to see for any Twisteds and any machines currently on the map, and also Camera Hijack, which allows her to see the 2 nearest uncompleted machines. That's mostly the only things I have to say about her Toon character. But her Twisted, on the other hand... No, yeah, I also got nothing. The only thing I can really say about Twisted V is that she'll sometimes put ads on your screen, 4 unique ones to be exact, and I guess that is a cool mechanic, but you can get rid of them really quickly, so it's not really that big a deal. I don't really hate anything about V in particular, there's just not much I can say about her. And the only reason she's even in my good area list is just because she actually gets stuff to do, and it's not all too bad. You know what I do genuinely hate about her though? The way in which you unlock her. Look, the first and the last thing listed here, I don't think it's that big a deal. I feel like you could do that pretty easily. But the second thing is a load of dog water. Look, getting research in this game isn't hard because literally all you have to do is look at the ground and then you'll pick it up. But the hard part is that you need to do it with Twisted V specifically, and in order to get the research for a specific Twisted, you need to make sure you're on the same floor as that Twist. Meaning that if you're not on the same floor as Twisted V, you're not going to get any of the research for her. Plus, for each floor, you'll only get 2 research for each Twisted. So good luck playing the same stage 50 times just so then you can unlock the TV. This is also why I've been using other footage for this video, because I am not playing 12 hours of Bendy.exe featuring hyper-realistic boredom just so then I can unlock the color green. I don't even hate Dandy's World, I just think it's kind of boring and I just hate the way you unlock this character. But again, I placed her where she is just because I feel like compared to the characters below her, she does have at least a little bit more stuff to talk about. Next up on our list is the TV head zombie from Battle for Neighborville. I kind of thought this guy was from Garden Warfare 2 because of this video I saw, but he was from this game, which I've never heard of in my life. But I automatically don't like the cover of it because I see the Torchwood. Those pretty Torchwoods, I hate them. Before I can actually talk about how this character is somewhat decent, I need to talk about this absolutely horrid and wretched design choice for a character. Are you telling me that the devs at PopCap forgot how to make an actual design and just took a regular ass brown coat, put a TV on his head and gave him a bootleg power glove? They didn't even give him a funny looking face, he's just a regular zombie head. It's so dumb. But despite that, I still think he's pretty cool because I like his theming. Like most characters I'm assuming, TV Head has a bunch of abilities that he can use, 3 to be exact. The first of these abilities is known as Commercial Break. With this ability, he'll spawn a bucket down, and whenever he dies, he'll respawn at the location that he placed the bucket. The next of these abilities is Yeti Set Go, where he'll spawn in a Yeti that you can then freely control and bring it to other plants to blow them up. The final of these abilities TV Head has is Overheated Food, where he'll throw a piece of overheated food to the enemy, dealing 40 damage on splash hits and dealing 75 damage on direct hits. If I had to say which one's my least favorite based on the footage, I'd definitely say the Yeti one, just because unlike with the other two, it doesn't have that unique TV theming. Like, there's nothing really I can connect a Yeti to, unless maybe they're talking about like the fridge or something, but I don't think they're doing it. I like the other two specifically though because they're parallels to actual TV related things, like how Commercial Break is a respawn thing, like how Commercial Breaks pause for a minute until coming back to something. And Overheated Dinner could be a reference to how TV foods are a thing. Indeed. Overall, I don't think this character is very bad, but I do think he could have had a better design, and also, I haven't really played this game, so I can't give the best judgment on this character, but I feel like I'd have fun playing as him maybe. Also, if you guys are wondering why I've been sounding like this the entire time I've been doing the TV head section, it's just because I really wanted to do like my own impression of the YouTuber The Purple Zombie. If you haven't seen him, I highly recommend you go check out his content. He is really funny and just a really enjoyable YouTuber to watch. And Purple Zombie, if you're for whatever reason watching this, please keep making content. You're really good at it. Also, one more thing I wanted to say just before I move on is that when I made this tier list template for the video, I put V above TV head, but I forgot that I did and thought that I put TV head above V. But thinking about it now, I think I'm fine with that. I think now, if anyone were to recommend you an actually good game on Roblox, I think some people would probably say Rig Renovator, as unlike with a lot of the games that are on the front page of Roblox, this game actually has talented developers that feel like they want to make this game instead of making it to make money. I'm looking at you, steal my brain cells. But this game is extremely enjoyable, and I definitely recommend you go check it out if you have the chance. The reason I bring up this game, though, is because of one of the game's plethora of NPCs, which are very popular with the community. And unsurprisingly, one of them happens to relate to TV head characters, and that character is named Melanie. SMG4 fans, please just wait, I promise your character's coming up soon. She's the type of NPC that'll join you in the elevator if you go to a certain floor that she's on. The two floors that she'll join you on are Mozel's Humble Castle and Pet Capture Deluxe. Now, before I actually talk about anything related to Melanie herself, I do want to briefly mention the actual floors she appears on, as the floors that she appears on are actually minigames that you can play. In Mozel's Humble Castle, you're put into a 1-minute minigame where you have to collect the doodle drawings of these sweet-looking treats, and you need to make sure you collect the green ones, or not the red ones, as the red ones are all moldy and mushy, and you can't eat those, because if you do, then you take damage. The more treats you collect, the more points you earn, and if you collect the most amount of treats, then it's tallied up on a board, and you get first place, and you get something. I forgot what it was, but I don't really care to know what it was. And then in Pet Capture Deluxe, it's pretty self-explanatory. You capture pets. They'll tell you how many to capture, and you win if you capture them all. There's also some other collectibles that you can get throughout the stage that, if I'm not mistaken, could give you coins. But I might be wrong about that, so correct me if I am. Now, just like with most NPCs, when she enters your elevator, she'll just simply move around and say things occasionally. She's definitely a character that fits really well into the style of the game, and I can definitely appreciate that. I also like the pink and blue color scheme on her design. It looks really nice. She also does this thing where when you're just kind of playing the game, she'll randomly activate a countdown that, when it ends, will make your player jump. It's not really too interesting, but I feel like I had to mention it because it's just kind of the thing that she does a lot. I also tried to see if I could possibly get any character interactions with her, as NPCs can interact and talk to each other in this game. And I did manage to get one with this other character named Bive, who is very commonly used by the developers. And it's honestly a pretty charming conversation. Bive talks about a character named Split, who's also in this game, that is having an issue right now. And he says it as if it's very urgent, with him speaking in all uppercases. But then when he reveals it's just writer's block, he then speaks in all lowercase. And it concerns Melanie at first too, until she realizes the gravity of the situation, and it's just kinda all fine. One more thing I wanted to say about her is that if Melanie's in the elevator at the same time as a character named Foley, then she's supposed to be scared, as you can see by the image on the left. But by the image on the right, apparently there's a glitch that just makes it so that she's not scared of Foley when he shows up. And I decided to do the Foley boss fight for myself without knowing that the glitch was a thing, and then right after that happened, I got the glitch version. So yeah, I definitely like Melanie. I think she's a cool character, and she's a very welcome addition to the game. Hello everyone, me from the future, a few days after I finally finished this segment of the video. As I am recording this, yesterday I had played this game again with my friend, and I actually did get a lot more interactions between other characters and Melanie, but I didn't get any pictures of them. However, I did get that one picture of Melanie being scared around Foley, so here that is in all its glory. That's all I had to say, so let's get back to the regularly scheduled program. Well, I guess it's time to talk about SMG4 now. I said I guess it's time to talk about SMG4 now. I didn't make this joke to say that SMG4 fans are insane. I just made it because I knew that SMG4 fans would be waiting patiently if I covered a topic like this. I talked about earlier how I feel like if you know the works on my channel, you probably know what glitch is. And if you know what glitch is, you probably know what SMG4 is by extension. But for those who have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, it was an old Mario animation channel that eventually went on to become more of its own thing while still incorporating the Mario stuff. The series also recently finished wrapping up, which, honestly, it was a pretty good ending. I'm not the biggest fan of SMG4, but I definitely like how things wrapped up. Now, while both then and now it was still a channel for goofy Mario animations, as the series went on, the entry started getting a bit more serious in the kind of stuff that they were doing. This came in the introduction of arcs, which included stuff about Waluigi and stuff about anime for some reason. For most of these arcs though, I either wasn't into SMG4 at the time, or I just didn't really care to watch them. That was until the Puzzle Vision arc came out. And with this arc came one of the most popular SMG4 characters ever, Mr. Puzzles. And I bet a lot of you that clicked on this video were really hoping to see what I think of him. And what do I think of him? He's pretty good. Now, while he is in a lot of SMG4 content, I do not have the willpower to spend 9 hours of my life just watching SMG4. So for the sake of this list, I'm just going to include the ones that were a part of the original Puzzle Vision arc, which are the videos from No TV Make Mario Not Okie Dokie to the Puzzle Vision movie. And just before I do that, I did want to briefly go over some of the stuff he did in the past SMG4 videos, as he was actually foreshadowed within those videos and made appearances. He made his first appearance in the SMG4 movie, It's Gotta Be Perfect, fact when he took the form of this clippy, like, desktop assistant and sold SMG4 a possessed keyboard. Now, while I don't think he's actually mentioned in the movie itself, he did serve an important purpose in the Western Spaghetti movie because he was the one who worked with One Shot Ren to put everyone in a simulation. And because Meggy had idolized this guy for years, she was so distraught at the news that he was actually the bad guy. And then just before the videos I'm gonna talk about today, he made one final appearance in Wo-Fi 2023, when he was revealed at the very end to actually be watching the entirety of the episode that we just watched. Okay, done with history, time to talk facts now. I don't think what I said made sense, but I'm gonna say it anyways, so yeah. First video we got here is No TV Make Mario Not Okie Dokie, which, yes, I know is not technically a part of the original Puzzlevision series, but I'm still gonna count it anyways because it was kind of like the thing that started everything. The story of this one is that SMG4 and everyone are just watching TV, but then all of a sudden the power turns off and they can't watch TV anymore, so they gotta go downstairs and turn the power back on. Mr. Puzzles, though, isn't in this video all too much. He makes the brief cameo every so often, and there's a little thing at the end that teases the next following videos that he would be featured in a lot more prominently. The next video would be Mario's Mysteries, which was the first of the proper Puzzlevision videos, and it was a very obvious parody of Blue's Clues. If I were to rank the Puzzlevision episodes, which I'm not going to, I'd probably rank this one pretty high just because I have a bias for Blue's Clues in general. As obviously mentioned, the episode plays out as if it's an episode of Blue's Clues, with that little SMG4 flair to it. SMG4 replaces Steve, Mario replaces Blue, and there's also a bunch of other characters. I'm also going to mention the Scooby toilet joke, but only because I want that joke to die. Mr. Puzzles only really has one scene in this episode, but that's fine because he serves a pretty good impression. He calls Mario and SMG4 over for TV time, where he just sits them down and makes them watch the B-movie with bonus features. Also, Mr. Puzzles, I don't care if you were the first one to make TV time while being a TV head character. I'm gonna get the 10 lawyers out. Just before that, we also got to see a brief tease as to what he was doing with the rest of the SMG4 cast. We'll focus on that later, though, because right now it's not really too important. After Mr. Puzzles made the two of them watch the B-movie, he then gives them a special reward, which is, of course, a pipe bomb, which was used for the aforementioned. He then acts a little ominous, and then that's it. Overall, a pretty good first impression, and I just kind of like how they build him up as a more ominous figure, because they want to reveal more as the episodes go on with him. I really like his design with how his teeth are actually just like the colored bars you see when a TV's airing. That's cool to me. I think Brendan Blader also gives a really good type of magician performance for him. I wouldn't call it more showman, I'd call it more magician. It kind of gives me more of those vibes. However, those are vibes I like, and I indeed like his voice. Then there was Once Upon an SMG4, which was kind of inspired by other princess movies, but mostly Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Now, unlike Scooby Mario, where he only served one role, he actually serves two roles in this video. One as SMG4's mirror on the wall, where he actually makes this kind of funny joke that I like.
Nuh-uh.
You mean nuh-uh?
And his other role is being a fairy godmother to SMG3 to help him make him a cool princess or something. I also like how when SMG3 is whining to Mr. Puzzles, he just uses a remote to mute him, which makes good use of him being a character all about TV. SMG3 also does this at the end of the video.
I wish!
And after that happens, Mr. Puzzles comes back in to re-brainwash everyone and make everything supposedly normal again. Again, not too much to this one, but it was pretty good for showcasing some more of his TV-related stuff, and I like the nuh-uh joke. The next video part of the Puzzlevision arc is Scooby Mario Where'd You Go?, which is a very obvious parody of Scooby-Doo. Mr. Puzzles' role is simply just to be the guy that tells them about the mystery that's going on. This mystery they have to solve is to figure out what happened to Mr. Puzzles' chef, who is Bob. There's also something he says that's not at all a joke, but the way in which he moves as he says it is really funny to me.
Those are Bob's favorite Yeezys. He never goes anywhere without his Yeezy.
I wouldn't be finding this funny if it wasn't for the fact that he's moving around like a wacky inflatable tube man as he says it. Other than that, we also get to see this ad he made for his bootleg Freddy Fazbear's Pizza restaurant, and then his final thing that he did was when Mario and Luigi entered into this room that had a bunch of TVs that all monitored every single episode that Mr. Puzzles forced the SMG crew to be in. And as Luigi and Mario are looking at the screens, Mr. Puzzles comes out of nowhere and then reverses the footage all the way back to before Mario and Luigi entered the door, and then he blocks it off so that they couldn't go in. This is probably my favorite scene in the episode because it's such a creative use of his powers that I just really enjoy. The only thing that could possibly be better than this scene is the he never goes anywhere without his Yeezys part. Next we have my second favorite video out of all of the Puzzlevision videos, which is Mr. Puzzle's Incredible Game Show Spectacular. I say this is my second favorite because I just really like game shows as a whole, and unlike with the other videos, which are mostly just parodies of one thing, this is actually a parody of multiple different types of game shows. shows. You got shows like Family Feud, Wheel of Fortune, Price is Right, stuff like that. Now, something I think that I should mention now is that in the previous videos before this one, he would at the very end ask the viewers how good the episode was and to rate it on their website. Now, this website was a real website you could visit at one point, but I'm pretty sure it's gone now since the whole thing is over, and he really wanted to get 5-star ratings on all of these episodes. With this being the episode where he takes center stage, it's very obvious that this is the episode where he'd focus most about the ratings. The thing is though, as the episode goes on, his ratings keep getting lower and lower, mostly because of stupid stuff that the cast was doing, particularly with Mario. And eventually he gets so fed up with Mario lowering his ratings that he puts him in a cage right next to the black bar that's on the side of the screen. And then he proceeds to drop all the different props he used for all the different games on every single person until they're all dead, I'm assuming. And because of what Mr. Puzzles is doing, this allows Mario to simply just leave the cage and then go back to the real world. Next we have the entry You Will See, and if I'm gonna be completely honest, this entry might have the most spot-on animation I've ever seen in any SMG4 video ever. These movements are more sporadic and lifelike than any other SMG4 video I saw, and it kind of makes me wish that every SMG4 video looked like this. Obviously I know they can't do that because that'd be way too high budget, and there is a little bit of charm to the Gmod ragdoll animation and the Mario 64 green screen stuff, but this animation is just a visual marvel to look at. Like, it's incredible. That's all I wanted to say about the animation. The actual video itself is Mr. Puzzles telling everyone that he hasn't gotten a full 5-star rating on any of the works he's made. So, to compensate for that, what he's gonna do is make a movie. And at the very end of the video, he tells everyone to go to the channel. What followed was a live stream that, while now privated, was a 3-day countdown to the Puzzlevision movie's release. This live stream would have different works that Mr. Puzzles has made. However, each day that passed by, the footage would slowly corrupt more and more. New things would be added or removed from the original footage. The music might cut out at some points. And Mr. Puzzles himself would slowly get more and more demented. And eventually, the countdown ended and the day came when Puzzlevision the movie would premiere. And with none of his previous stuff getting 5 stars, he decided to start this movie by doing a parody of SpongeBob, which honestly, props to him, because that series is still going on to this day, and it is very profitable with kids. And for the first bit, it seems as if everything is going the way Mr. Puzzles wanted it to be. But then when SMG4 asks Mario for help, he realizes that he's not there. And then after changing the show to a completely different parody of something else, Mr. Puzzles then quickly figures out that Mario escaped. Mr. Puzzles then transports himself to SMG4's castle through his TV. However, he starts running away when he figures out that Mario is an absolute psychopath. When Mr. Puzzles gets back to his studio, he then goes into his mind where all the SMG4 characters have been for the past few uploads, and then confronts them legitimately. And I like how everyone's first instinct upon seeing him is to start beating him up instinctively. However, while it seems to have worked, it didn't, because this is his mind after all. And then when everyone asks him why they're there and what he's doing with them, he then tells them using a song. Creative Control is an absolute jam and is definitely a really good visual segment. The song's got a real upbeat and catchy tune that I just really enjoy listening to. And Mr. Puzzle's vocals really fit this song to a T. It's both a total earworm and also a pretty good song visually. So again, when you get the chance, go listen to it. However, I need to keep mentioning this song because it gives us more details as Mr. Puzzles as a character. His backstory is that he didn't have any friends to grow up with, so to forget about all of his problems in his life, he just watched TV all day. However, he became so obsessed with the concept of TV that he cut off his own head and replaced it with one. He's going after SMG4 specifically because he thought their show was extremely stupid, and if he could make them entertaining, he could do anything he wanted. And of course, his reasonings for wanting his 5-star ratings is so that way he can freely control anything that SMG4 in the game does. And at the end of the song, he splits everyone into groups of 2, so that way they can go to different TV channels. I'll do a rundown of the parodies later, but I want to quickly mention the South Park parody because I think that's probably my favorite out of all of them. They actually made an animated version of Bob and Boopkins to blend in with the South Park style, and I think it's really cool that they went through all that effort for one joke. Eventually, everyone gets back together and they go to channel 999, which they believe is their escape. However, this all turned out just to be a trap that Mr. Puzzles had set up for them. Because of everything that they'd done on all those other channels they went to, they have now given Mr. Puzzles his 5-star rating. And of course, he starts it off by doing a Muppet Show parody, because who doesn't know Peak? Mario then comes in and starts ruining Mr. Puzzles' show like what he did for the game show episode, and it's probably like the best thing that's ever come out of this whole series. This breaks SMG4 and everyone else out of Mr. Puzzles' control, and then they go and make their own game show. However, when they're really close to reaching 5 stars, Mr. Puzzles then comes in at the last second to stop what they're doing. But then he starts getting beat up by SMG4 and everyone else, in a scene that's honestly pretty cool. And the battle ends once SMG4 reaches their 5-star goal, and Mr. Puzzles goes back down to 1. And then everything ends once SMG4 hits Mr. Puzzles and sends him flying back. If I'm being completely honest, my only complaint with Mr. Puzzles as a character is just that I don't think they really got that much use out of him within this arc. I mean, yeah, obviously it's not too long, but I feel like they could have, had a bit more to explain about his character before the movie ended up coming out. But I cannot stress enough that Mr. Puzzles is one of the best characters that SMG4 has ever made. He's extremely lifelike, he has a great voice actor, everything about him is just extremely fun. Now, the thing is, I do have a big problem with him that I'm not really counting towards this ranking because it involves something that's outside of the original Puzzle Vision arc. However, I wanted to mention it now just because I feel like I have to. I don't think they should have given him a character arc in the later videos. Okay, before I start talking about it, I just wanted to say, this is just, what I think of the idea of him having a character arc is, not how well it's actually executed, because again, I haven't watched this movie that the character arc started in, and I haven't watched all the other stuff before that. I'm just saying the idea of what they're trying to do. I don't like the idea, but for all I know, the execution could have been, miraculous or something. I just really did not feel like watching more SMG4 for this video, and I'm really sorry about that, but I'm just being honest. Alright, anyways, here's my thoughts. Okay, so for context, at the end of the Guns N' Puzzles movie, Mr. Puzzles then goes on a character arc to make things right, but I feel like it's a little bit too done too late kind of thing. I mean, again, I haven't really watched this, so I could be mistaken, and there is actually something here that's valid for him to have a character arc. But as I see it, I don't really understand why. I feel like it's already too far for him to actually do anything good, because he's tortured the cast too much to the point where it just doesn't feel earned, and it makes him a worse written character as a result. I feel like the way he was written before as just an unforgivable monster just seems like the perfect way to have his character. And this arc kind of sours the experience of that terrible character. But I'm not considering it for the ranking like I said, so he is still a really good character in my eyes. Yeah, overall, I think he's absolutely fantastic, and I definitely think he's probably the second best character on this list to actually focus on the theming of TV. I'm not saying because you're a TV head character, you have to focus on the concept of TV around that character, but the fact that he did it relatively well just improves the overall watching experience for this character for me. And quickly before I end this, I just wanted to list off everything that Mr. Puzzles parodies in all of his TV channel things. This will just include TV shows and movies though, so nothing else like that, and I'm not including cameos that he wasn't involved in. I'm also definitely going to miss a few things, and there's ones that I do know are references to stuff, but I just don't know what the references are, so please let me know if you catch what the references to those things are. So anyways, I'm just going to list the ones I do know. So there's Blue's Clues, Sesame Street, Snow White, Princess and the Frog, Scooby-Doo, The Barnyard, Family Feud, Wheel of Fortune, Price is Right, Deal or No Deal, Wipeout, SpongeBob, Teletubbies, King Kong, The Shining, Toy Story, The Joker, Indiana Jones, Aladdin, Rugrats, Titanic, Survivor, Rick and Morty, Hell's Kitchen, National Geographic, Peppa Pig, Mr. Bean, Doctor Who, Wallace and Gromit, Postman Pat, Bob the Builder, South Park, Green Lantern, Adventure Time, Dragon Ball Z, The Muppet Show, and Bambi. Also, as I was editing this section, I forgot to talk about VeggieTales, the B-movie, Shrek, and Yo Gabba Gabba, so I'm just here to mention them now. Okay, Mr. Puzzles, one of the best ones on the list, but I have been talking about him for way too long now, so let's just wrap it up and move on to the next one already. Time for me to talk about a game that lost its relevance 2 or 3 years ago now. I don't really think it'd be controversial of me to say that Friday Night Funkin' is probably one of the most influential games of this decade. I mean, there are so many mods for this game. This game probably has the most mods out of any video game that has ever existed, I swear to God. Some of these mods actually give spotlight to the creators who worked on it, and some mods will do whatever they want so that way you give up. However, there was a mod that would start all of this, and that would of course be the Versus Woody mod. I don't think it was the first FNF mod ever, but it was the first one that most people gravitated towards when thinking about FNF mods as a whole. And this song has most of the tropes that you would expect to come in an FNF mod. There's 3 songs, and the last song they get really, really mad, and it's really, really hard for absolutely no reason. And with how popular this mod got on YouTube, there was bound to be other people to make their own mods. And of course, one of the first mods that did so, and is what this section is about, the Versus Hex mod. The mod was created on March 18th, 2020 2021 by Yin Yang 48. And while it wasn't as popular as Witty, it was still a very popular mod at the time of its release. And after years of watching others play it, I decided to play it myself. So here's what happens and my thoughts on it. The mod begins with an opening cutscene where boyfriend and girlfriend are talking to each other after the opponent they just faced in a rap battle. And they are very much talking about Witty, as boyfriend calls him Ballistic, which is the last name of the song in the Witty mod. But as they're just sitting down on their bench and talking, they get called over by a new person named Hex. And Hex might be genuinely one of the most chill characters in any FNF mod I've ever seen, honestly. Most other mods are kind of just the same, in which a character is just kind of normal, but then the more they rap, the more they get pissed off because they're losing the rap battles, until they just decide that they have the warrant to kill you now. Hex is just a chill guy that really wants to rap with someone, and I can respect that a lot. And after the cutscene, we get started on a song called Dunk, which is honestly pretty good. It fits the vibe of Hex's character being very laid back and chill. And since this is the first song of the mod, I get to talk about the vocals and other stuff like that. And I think Hex actually has pretty good vocals, all things considered. I think when I first listened to these songs, I thought I was put off by his vocals, but thinking about it more, they actually aren't too bad. His vocals are very electronic-like, which fits with the idea of him being a robot. And even though it doesn't sound like they would, I do think his vocals actually fit the songs that he's attributed to. I also like his sprites with how each arrow that he plays is displayed on his screen. It's a great way of the developer using a TV head character to their advantage. At the end of the cutscene, they talk about how much fun they were having with the last round as the sun starts to set, and then they decide to do another song. The next song is called Ram, and I think I do actually enjoy the song more than the previously mentioned Dunk. It has an upbeat, but once again still relaxing vibe that I think meshes well together into one song. I also like how all the sprites slightly change to be a little bit more orange to fit with the fact that the sun is setting. It's just a nice little detail that I appreciate, although I don't feel like it mixes entirely well. Like if you look at Girlfriend here, it doesn't feel right. But overall, I think it's a nice little detail that they added. In the last song, boyfriend and girlfriend are about to leave because it's nighttime. However, they agree to do one last song before they leave. The next song is called Hello World, and despite having the worst name out of any song so far, it also is probably the best song so far. This sounds really weird to say as an FNF song, but it has an ethereal vibe to it. I think because it's like nighttime, but it just works somehow. After the song, we get another cutscene where boyfriend and girlfriend are about to leave for real this time. However, apparently as Hex was rapping, he actually got a virus inside of his security system, and because they went past his security system, he now can't do anything about the virus from taking over his body. So to stop it from fully gaining control, he asked boyfriend to input a series of combinations that might crash his systems and make him reboot. I like to take more of a just normal character that just gets corrupted by an evil force rather than a normal character that just gets really pissed off about the fact that they're really bad at rapping. And while I guess it makes him more of a computer head character than a TV head character, the idea of him getting a virus definitely fits with his design of being like a character themed around technology in a way, and it's something that I really like. The song after this cutscene, though, I do not. I think Glitcher falls too far into the category of being really hard because that's the third song an FNF mod should do. However, because of that, the song has no unique gimmick and it just doesn't really flow well for me. Though with that said, I did still lose to this song and I could not beat it unless I changed the difficulty to normal. However, I'll concede on this and say that I was just having a skill issue. I feel like people who are more experienced in playing FNF are just better at this song than me, so more power to them. Now, even though it is my least favorite song, I think the portion in which you play it does have the best looking visuals in the mod. I like how Hex's face glitches out from his normal face to the virus face when he's in his idle animation. I like how all of Hex's faces when he does the different poses are different forms of errors. The skybox is literally the blue screen of death, which, while does not make any sense at all, is still a kind of cool visual. But my favorite visual is when Hex and boyfriend are put into this wireframe red versus blue looking visual, and with Hex on the red side representing the virus and boyfriend on the blue side representing himself. It is extremely cool to see. And that's for a while where the mod ended. However, on New Year's Eve of 2021, they would eventually release a new update for the Hex mod. This mod included another extra week, plus some other songs that people could play. I'll do a brief ranking of the songs at the end, but for now, I'm just going to stick with the ones that were added to the new update. Starting up the new week, we get a cutscene that, while is not like the other ones, has a cool style to it that I definitely like. Now, the plot of this week is that Daddy Dearest set up a thing called the Funkin' Awards, and for it, Boyfriend and Hex are actually going to perform live on stage. After BF talks to Gia for a while, eventually he meets up with Hex. I think it's actually kind of cool that Hex has actually been planning out what the performance was going to be, and the reason Hex is even here is because somehow Daddy Dearest saw the battle that Boyfriend and Hex were in last time, and he actually enjoyed Hex's music so much that he was allowed to be invited. Also, it's very obvious based on his design, but I forgot to mention now that he's a basketball player as well. I haven't really talked about him much though, because it doesn't really play that much into his character, I reckon, other than the fact that he's pretty energetic, which honestly fits. After the cutscene, we're taken to the first song of the new week, called Cooling. Definitely one of my favorite songs out of all of the Hex songs so far. I know I've said it so many times, but this mod is just really good at making songs that are both relaxing and also extremely upbeat. Both from the visuals and just the way it sounds, this sounds like the kind of song that'd be played at like a rave. And yeah, it fits. I can't say anything else, it just fits. I like the lights that'll flash in the background. I like that in the foreground there's different pictures of other FNF characters from different FNF mods. And of course there's that one part where both Hex and Boyfriend are under a spotlight, which just looks absolutely fantastic. But for some reason when I played, there was absolutely no Hex where that spotlight was. And this isn't the only glitch I run into, because in the first week when I played Glitcher, every time I restart the song, Hex would just sink deeper and deeper into the ground until he was out of the map. Those are the only two I can think of that I encountered, and while I don't necessarily hate them, I think they should definitely fix them. After the song, we get an actually animated 2D cutscene, which I think actually looks pretty good. In the cutscene, Hex and Boyfriend are gesturing to each other how they did great, but then Hex glitches out and the virus from last time takes over his body again, except this time it seems to have full control instead of just a little bit. When the virus gets control, they immediately decide to start going for GF, which I don't know why, but then Daddy Dearest comes in and punches him with really cool smoke effects, and while it knocks him out for just a brief bit, he then immediately gets back up. They then go back to a traditional text-based cutscene, and in it, Daddy Dearest gives the biggest lore bombshell this mod has had. Basically, the thing that's been controlling Hex wasn't exactly a virus, it was actually demons from hell from the corporation Iris. Daddy Dearest had partnered with them for a while, but then eventually decided to leave after things had went terrible with the company. However, ever since then, they wanted Daddy Dearest back down there with them. Now, Daddy Dearest says that people from hell can't enter the real world, even though he's here for some reason. But anyway, since no one from Iris can go to the real world, they decided to use Hex as a vessel. And with Iris being here now, Daddy Dearest gets the good idea to make Boyfriend rap against Iris, so that way maybe if Boyfriend wins, then Iris would lose its supposedly good reputation. This then falls into the final song of the week called Detected, which, unlike Glitcher, manages to be a really good but also really hard song. This one has a much more techno vibe to it that sounds really good and also fits with the idea of the whole virus thing. And while the song is good, I just cannot beat it, dude. Look, with Glitcher, I'll accept the fact that maybe it was just a skill issue on my part, but this song is just too hard, man. The notes constantly move around, making it practically impossible for me to tell where they're supposed to be. And unlike the regular week, I couldn't change the difficulty to still beat this song. I had to play it on the default difficulty. So eventually I just gave up and watched some random guy on YouTube play it. The song itself is very good though, and I like that everything changes from the nice cool blue colors during cooling to a big vibrant red. And again, you are out of your mind if you're thinking that I'm actually doing this. After the song, we're put onto another text-based cutscene, since Iris's stocks have been plummeting from losing the song. And all of what happened gave what Hex needed to get back into control. And after everything that happened to him, people actually cared for Hex and hope he was okay, which makes Hex really happy. I like Hex more than the other FNF characters because he actually seems to have a character rather than just, oh, I want to fight you because you have good rapping skills and I have better rapping skills. It makes Hex feel more interesting and more complex as a character compared to all these other FNF mods. And then the mod ends with a cliffhanger with this guy Infernus, who I suppose is the head in charge of the Iris company, trying to think of other ways that he can finally sabotage the Dearest family. And this plan will still involve Hex in some way, including this character named Slasher, who we just get to see for a brief bit. And that was the Versus Hex mod. I know there's some other songs that were included with this update, but I'll talk about those at the end. Not in full detail, just where I'd rank the songs in like a list. I've already made my statements about Hex, but again, he is just a really cool character that I enjoy a lot because of how different he is from other FNF modded characters. He's not some generic character that just gets angry whenever you're better at him than a rap battle. He just wants to do it because he finds it fun, and I just really enjoy that. I also like this made-up direction that they're going with this whole Iris company thing. I think it's a really cool idea for a direction that they can go in with this whole mod. I also like how at certain points they just try to make sense of why the characters are singing. There are some FNF mods where if the character really wanted to, they could just get rid of Boyfriend, but they don't. They just continue to rap with them, and I don't know why. And this mod uses those raps to its advantage with having the Iris get overconfident in itself and fighting Boyfriend in order to make themselves look better, when they ended up making themselves look worse. And even that said, they're still working on a version 3 for this mod, so this mod ain't done yet. Also, as I was watching the video when they were talking about the development for version 3, I thought I recognized Hex's voice, and then I realized, oh my god, It's Rek-D. You guys probably know who this man is already, but if you don't know, Rek-D is just a guy who will take any game with a soundtrack and then put lyrics over the soundtrack. He did this for a lot of Friday Night Funkin' mods, including the subject of this section, Hex, and also did it for Pizza Tower for some reason. And yeah, his voice for Hex is just the exact same one that was used in the promotion video for version 3.
Huh? No, I have no problems with you determining that woman's expiration date, aka the event update. The development is going at a steady pace.
I mean, I guess it sounds a little different, but I feel like it's similar enough. Plus, the wiki said so, so I'm going to trust it. And those who wanted to see it, this is my list of the songs in the mod from my least favorite to most favorite. So yeah, I genuinely enjoyed this mod, and Hex was an absolutely great character to know. And Ying Ying, if you're watching this video, I look forward to see what you might do with version 3. And while I probably won't cover it, I'll definitely make sure to check it out. I'm not going to do a brief history rant on this one because I don't really know how to, and also, I think everyone in the Roblox community knows what Forsaken is. Now, I do think at times Forsaken can be a pretty fun game, but I do have to ask, there are other games that were like Forsaken before it, however, they never got the same amount of popularity that Forsaken got, and I have no idea why. Again, I'm not saying this to dog on Forsaken, but there's been so many of these Dead by Daylight style Roblox games that it makes me wonder why only this one shot up into popularity and not the other ones. But you know what, someone else can go talk about that because that's not what this video is about. What I want to talk about is that along with adding Guest 666 in a pretty recent update, they also added a character called Veronica. Now, out of all the Roblox characters on this list, you may be wondering why she got so much higher than both V and Melanie, and the reason for that is, she's just really fun to play as. But before I can talk about the thing I really find fun with her, I want to talk about the things that just make her character the way it is. Now, similar to Hex, she combines both being a TV head character and a sport of some kind. The sport is skating, and I think unlike with Hex, this was done a lot more well because it actually fits into the stuff she does within the game. With Hex, is kind of brought up, but he's not really doing much of it. And she has character abilities kind of like V from Dandy's World, except they work a lot better and are a lot more fun to use. And speaking of those abilities, let's talk about them. First, there's Vandalism, where by going up to any hard wall or surface, you can then spray paint on that wall or surface, making a cool little piece of artwork. It's also important for something that I'll talk about in just a minute. Then there's Broadcast, which I'm pretty sure is meant to give better stats to the player. Things like speed or quick regeneration. It also can be swapped down for another ability called Bumper, which I didn't really use, but it's supposed to like damage the killer in some sort of way. Then there's Active Battery, which will slowly regenerate the player's health over time. And while these abilities are cool and all, they do not compare to the legendariness that is the ability of Skate, where when you're in a graffiti area, you get to go on a skateboard, and it's the most fun thing I've ever done. While spawn killers after you, just pull a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater on them, there you go. Plus in this mode, they give you a button to jump off of walls, which is insanely cool. Again, like I said about Hex that came before, they didn't really play that much into how he fits as a basketball player, but with this one they make all the use of Veronica being a skater. And the fact that she can only go into this mode from spray painting walls just makes it all the better. And while the game itself doesn't really give her a personality, I feel like just looking at her design makes it feel like she has a lot of it. But if you want more personality that isn't from looks, I recommend you watch this video by Paint Freak, who decided to do a voice for Veronica if she had one. I think she did a really good job, and I definitely recommend you check it out. And last thing I wanted to mention about her is that just like with every other character in this game, she's got different skins. There's iPad, flannel, and boy, in case you don't feel like being a girl. So yeah, while I have not much else to say about her, I think she is a really fun character to play as, and if you ever play Forsaken, I definitely recommend you play as her. I know I had way more to say about the two characters I talked about that were below her, but I feel like with her, simple is more, and it just works for me. Also, this is not really about her, but when I was playing as her, I got a bit of footage of me juking out some of the killers, and it's really fun to see. Poppy Playtime, one of the reasons as to why people now hate mascot horror games. People were actually praising this game though when the first and third chapter were out. However, the conception was kind of different when chapter 3 and 4 were a thing. I think after chapter 5 they should just release chapter 7 because the even number chapters don't seem to do well. The developers of this game are also pretty questionable since before the release of chapter 2 they teased it by making people buy NFTs, which I definitely feel like is a big problem, but I'm not here to focus on that today. A lot of other people have talked about it before, and this is not what this video is about. Today, I'm here to talk about a character from the pretty divisive recent release of Chapter 4, and of course that's none other than the Doctor. Now, from what I heard about this character, he was supposed to be a big threat leading up to this chapter, but for some reason, he's just not the main villain, but instead it was the twist villain Dog guy voiced by Michael Kovac, who's chill for most of the chapter until the very end where he decides you'd look better if you were a corpse. He shows up at the very beginning of the chapter to taunt you and send you into the cave that you spend most of the chapter in. He also also unleashes some of the monsters that you see in this chapter, like Yarnaby and the Nightmare Critters. Eventually you confront the man himself, and he sends you into a maze where you have to get batteries in order to fill up these generator things. As you're doing it though, you have to avoid these robots he controls that are going after you at random points. Eventually you'll be able to get back to where he actually is, and then kill him. Now, I haven't played Poppy Playtime Chapter 4, so I can't really judge on if this sequence is actually done well, but by the sequence of it, I think it actually looks pretty fun. Finding different items that you have to take with you and put into random places as you're being chased around by his robot minions is actually not too bad of a concept. I also feel like the robots randomly turning on would probably add to this a little bit. I remember Dags making a video about Chapter 4, and he got Postra to talk about the Doctor, and I remember Postra talking about how the robots should only turn on if there's a specific one that you pass by. And while I'm totally fine with his opinion, I do think that ones just randomly turning on would have to keep you on your feet more and be a lot more interesting, because say you were trying to go another way, but then another one cuts you off, then you gotta think of a different way to go. And I know he said the Doctor stuff worked well in concept but didn't in execution, but I only have a concept to work on, so I can't really judge on execution. Though I will agree with him that the animations for these robots are pretty bad. They honestly look like animations you'd see in a crappy mobile horror game. The robots only kill you in a certain amount of hits and don't kill you immediately, which I think is fine and not too punishing for the players. I also like the designs of the robots, with not just lab coats making the cape, but also the proportions of the robots themselves. They have that kind of design where I can't really explain why I like it, I just do for some reason. I think they just kind of look cool, and especially compared to every other character in this game, they are actually a pretty unique design that we haven't really seen before. However, even the Doctor's own section doesn't hold a candle to how the Doctor actually sounds and his voice lines. Baldwin Williams gives him a voice that's pretty sophisticated, but also very ominous at the same time. I genuinely think he gives a really good performance, and a lot of the lines that he has are just made even better thanks to this voice. I generally like a lot of these voice lines he has, like, "Come on in, the Doctor will come see you now." I think it's just a really good punny line, and also the way he says it just really give off the vibe that this character is going for. And again, I haven't played this chapter, but it genuinely looks like that he might be the best character in the game, just because he seems genuinely different from a lot of the other characters in this game. I like how he's the one that's also been torturing, like, all of the different toys. It makes him a lot more interesting than other characters like Doey, who just kind of come and go. Kinda going off what I said at the beginning of this section, my really only big issue is that I just wish he was the main villain of the chapter, because he just feels like he should be. I think they only made Doey the main villain just because he's way more marketable than this guy will ever be. Oh yeah, this is how he actually looks like, by the way. I mean, I guess you could technically say that I'm cheating a bit when that's what he actually looks like, but he's mostly represented through TVs, and he controls these, like, robot things through his consciousness, so it's fine, I'm willing to count it. And I know it sounds pretty absurd for me to rank this guy pretty high considering that I haven't played Poppy Playtime, but I think I just really like the vibes that this character gives off. Like, it works with how this is a horror game, and that he's just the most ominous and kind of creepy thing about it. I mean, if we're being honest with ourselves, I don't really think any of the designs of the characters in this game are actually scary, but because his design is so much different from everyone else, and it actually feels like it fit more into a general horror space, is why I think he's just the scariest character in the game, technically. It's not that really big of an accomplishment, but whatever. I also like his name, The Doctor. It's just a much more interesting name than a lot of other things he could have been named. It's like how in Marble Hornet, Slenderman is called the Operator, because Slenderman is not really that good of a name. So conceptually, I really love the Doctor character. Now, I don't know if it's well in execution, but again, I can't judge off that, but hopefully it is if I decide to play this chapter for myself. And he would have gotten the top spot on this list if it wasn't for someone that I just think is infinitely better. You guys probably already know who it is, but let's roll it anyways.
Mr. Antenna's TV Shop.
I already knew going into this ranking that there was not a single character in my eyes that would ever beat out Tenna from Deltarune. Even if I put Vox from Hazbin Hotel on this list, he still wouldn't be as good as Tenna. That's because he's both simple yet effective, and extremely effective at that, as he's both really well written and also just a really charming character to watch. Now, just before we talk about the stuff he actually does in the game, I quickly want to talk about his design because I think it's genuinely fantastic. I really like his red and yellow color scheme, and it fits well with the idea that he wants attention, and red and yellow are very bright colors that grab your attention very easily. And considering that he is a game show host, this fits the vibe of an extremely over-the-top one, and I love that. His belt also has little antennas on it, which I think is really cute. And of course he's in 3D, which makes him visually different from every other character in this game. Now you think Tenna's story would start at the start of Chapter 3, but it actually starts at the end of Chapter 2. In this chapter, Chris removes the soul from his body and then proceeds to open up a dark world inside his own home. And of course what we learned from the other chapters was that any object from the light world was given life in the dark world. And very obviously, Tenna is Chris's TV. And then of course he gets his starring role in Chapter 3, and he gets introduced by interrupting Susie and Ralsei's argument. And something that comes very prevalent here is that whenever he speaks certain words, they're put into different fonts and styles, and it looks very cool. Then he gets a 90s styled VHS tape intro, which is the greatest thing ever. A lot of you have probably already seen it by now, but if you haven't, just go take a look at it. It is the most 90s thing ever. After the really cool intro, Tenna then puts all the main characters into his own little game show. He then proceeds to show them a bunch of prizes they can win, plus a grand prize that he's saving as a secret reveal. But after talking about all this really cool stuff, Susie then interrupts and says that they don't want to be on the show, and that makes Tenna really sad. Susie, why'd you do that? However, after what she said, she goes back on it, and thank God she does, because we're about to enter the greatest thing that this chapter has to offer. Once the game actually starts, we get to see what Tenna's games are actually like. Each of them consists of playing a Legend of Zelda parody as you do different puzzles, while also getting to do other events like quizzes and such. There could be some boss fights, some enemies to fight, all that stuff. And eventually, it all culminates in one giant minigame, which is usually really fun. You only end up really doing a total of 2 of these boards across the entire chapter, but that doesn't really matter to me, as every single time they're always really fun to do. I like the quiz parts in the first map because trivia is always fun to me. The camera mechanic on the second board is usually pretty fun and makes for some neat puzzles. And like I said earlier, the minigames at the end of the boards are extremely fun, and in my opinion, they're probably the best part about them. Something I almost forgot to mention about the boards is that they rank you by a set of criteria and give you a full score over the entire round. These lets you access different parts of the map depending on how high your rank was. One of these include another minigame, which is genuinely the best one, and it feels so satisfying knocking out each and every single guy. Okay, I spent a lot of this time talking about the general gameplay of Chapter 3, so let's do a little bit more of general stuff related to Tenna's story. When the show is seemingly about to stop, Tenna comes in to not stop it and add an extra round for them to play. When he does it, he rushes heavily to start the next round and make it so that the game can go on longer, which is the first big sign of suspicious activity going on with Tenna. Then, after the first board, Susie goes to talk to Tenna, and he's talking to someone through the antennas or whatever. And when Susie tells Tenna that she thought the games were fun, Tenna feels actually really good about that because he hasn't had people watch him in a while. And with him being Chris's TV, he points out how Chris hasn't really watched him recently at all, and it's made him feel a little bit sad about himself. Then a lot later, after the second round is done, and Tenna's about to end the show for real, he then decides to make them do another round just because viewer engagement is seemingly really high. Then later, after Chris goes to talk to him, he then leaves early for some reason. And then with everyone feeling like how Tenna's acting's pretty strange, they decide to try and leave. After some pretty fun and interesting puzzles, everyone then goes to a snow area where they find out that the grand prize that Tenna had talked about earlier was actually Toriel. But before anyone can do anything to help her, Tenna then comes in and they have to hide. However, Tenna picks up the ball, which just leaves them completely exposed. So then Tenna takes them back to the main stage and makes them almost play the next round. However, Susie then speaks out against Tenna, and this makes Tenna lose his damn mind. So then Tenna forces them to keep playing his games until eventually they just agree to like it. And what he does is he just goes through all the different games that they played during the other boards, but they're all twisted and creepy and stuff. Eventually, though, they press the off button on Zapper, which causes them to leave the balls and escape from Tenna. This then makes Tenna force all of his employees to go after the main characters, but slowly they all leave him one by one. This even includes Mike, who had done pretty much everything for Tenna up until this. Eventually, the main characters come face to face with Tenna again, and this time Tenna just tells them why he's been doing all this to them. Basically, Tenna really enjoyed it whenever anyone would just watch him. However, over time, Chris and his family just stopped doing so, and that led to him feeling sad and alone. So he decided to make a deal with the Roaring Knight that if he managed to capture the main 3, he could have all the viewers he wanted. So, to end off his show, he's gonna make them do a boss battle. Now obviously, you could do the extremely boring thing and just kill him, or you could do the much more fun option of sparing him and getting 1,000 points in the process. And of course, one of the best and most fun ways to earn points is by doing mini-games, which is kinda done in a WarioWare sort of style. But I'm all completely good with it because I also really like WarioWare. And like I already said, I already really love the minigames, so of course this is probably my favorite part of the entire chapter. And then you end a fight with shooting Tenna right point blank in the face. And then after the fight, Susie lets Tenna know that even though he's not as wanted by everyone else, he might be wanted by somebody, which makes Tenna feel a lot better and frees Toriel, and everything's fine. until he dies, and it's all because of the stupid dumbass knight that I hate. However, this event leads into two different paths for Tenna's story. The first one of these is if you play the chapter without really focusing on sparing anybody, and because of this, Tenna in the Light World would be extremely broken, and Susie lets you know that in the Dark World they couldn't find Tenna's body, meaning of course that Tenna is just straight up dead. The second and better possibility though is that if you recruit enough of Tenna's employees from the third chapter, then he'll actually be alive in the fourth, with Susie telling you that she was able to repair Tenna with the help of the Shadow Guys and the Pippins. And with him alive, you're able to do one of two different things with him. You can take him to Castle Town so that way he can provide his entertainment for the king, and the final and last thing you can do with Tenna is simply bring him to his new owner, which a lot of people have supposed that it's actually Mettaton from Undertale. I don't really know, but that'd be cool, I guess. I think from every single angle, Tenna just has everything that I would want in a TV head character and more. Tenna's story about feeling alone when his original owners didn't watch him as much, but then finding a new owner, while really simple, was extremely effective and did properly work. They also make extremely great use of him being a TV head character while also doing a really good job with his personality. His design and the way he speaks perfectly fits with a TV show host, and all the different mini games that he makes the contestants play all fit with the idea of a game show and are just extremely well done in general. Also, he's really funny. I don't think I've mentioned that yet, but pretty much every joke with him lands for me in some way. Even when it's not him actually saying a joke and he's just doing the stupid Mixamo dance moves, I still find it really funny. Overall, Tenna is a character that does everything you'd want to see in a character entirely themed around TV, has a personality that perfectly fits a showman, a pretty decent backstory overall, and is also very funny. And all of this is to why Tenna is probably my favorite TV head character ever. Anyways, thank you for watching this video. If you watch all the way to the end, then I appreciate you so much. If you enjoyed this video, then I suggest you leave a like, and if you want to see more of my content, then subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified whenever I make a new video. Or if you have a differing opinion or you just want to say something, then leave it down in the comments. And just before I end this video, I really want to thank Rue for making the intro animation to this video, so thanks a lot, go check out his content. And that's all I got, so until next time, see ya.